IVM.
Hey guys, even though Elon Musk is trying to turn everyone into robots, you'll be happy to know that very real human beings work at IVM Podcasts, and some of them are even cool. How do I know? Well, listen to their own podcast, IVM Likes, where they recommend what they are listening to, watching, or reading. Catch IVM Likes every Monday on iTunes, Stitcher, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And may I recommend the IVM Podcasts app.
Hello and welcome to the Geek Fruit Podcast. My name is Dinkar and with me today is my best friend Jishnu.
Oh, shucks.
Am I your best friend?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. Well, this is awkward. Anyway, I have brought you here with me to discuss a very important thing. Vulture recently came out with a list of the best U2 songs ever. Well, actually no. It was a list of all the U2 songs ranked.
Right.
218 songs, all of them ranked. In order of greatness.
We've talked about this.
We have.
And?
Well, now we're going to talk about it on air.
Oh, sure. Okay.
We're going to go through all 218
that's
of them.
Pretty sound logic.
Yeah. What do you think the worst U2 song of all time is?
It's a tough one because it depends on, are we talking about like demos and like B-side recordings? Do those count?
They do count. That's why
Do
there's
they count?
218. Apparently.
But the thing is, it's not really fair to count those because the thing is, with like name any other band, they don't really have too many B-sides and demos released, right?
They did put out those two entire compilations of the 2 decades of B-sides.
That's the thing. So U2 can do that because they're a legacy band. They've been around for like 40 years.
Yeah.
But most bands don't get to do that until you're like 10 years deep into your career.
True.
And have that much material that it's worth putting it out.
Yeah.
So in that regard, it's like you have to look at it in like a context of like, is it, I mean, you know, So the answer is,
It's a tough one.
I'll
tell you what.
I'm going to say something of Songs of Innocence. Some song
probably
within Songs of Innocence.
I might agree there. But Karen Rose, feature writer for Vulture.com, thinks it's Boomerang 2, the B-side to Pride in the Name of Love.
I mean, no.
Yeah,
Not
you're
even-
wrong, Karen
not even
Rose.
a little bit.
There's a lot to discuss in this. Anyway, let's put a pin in this for now. What we'll do is, over the next 217 episodes, discuss each of these songs.
We'll go one at a time.
One at a time.
Just go down that list.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for today, 218, we think you're wrong. It's probably something off of Songs of Innocence.
Yep.
So take
screw
note of
you,
that.
lady.
Yeah. At Karen Rose, if you're listening. I think she's at Karen Rose. Anyway, today,
Speaking of lady,
we are gathered here today to speak of a lady who has shaped way more of our childhood than we realize. And her name is, drumroll. That's when you say the name. What name is it? What's he gonna say? I don't know. Like,
is your drum broken? Is it an eardrum that's exploding inside?
The speaker is slightly broken.
Where did you get this?
I'm sorry, I didn't have like the nicest drum sound effects to play for you, and so I made the effort and took the initiative to make the sound myself.
You're just breathing loud.
Yeah,
Are you a mouth breather?
That's how a crowd sounds from far away, Jishnu.
Are you a mouth breather?
I'm not a mouth breather.
You sure?
Yes.
Just breathe.
I
Breathe. Yeah,
I breathed.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
There's a lot of dust lately.
Always.
You should be careful about that.
Yes, I will. I bought a pollution mask that
Kathleen
makes...
Kennedy
Yes.
is an amazing producer who's been involved with basically every single movie that has been a massive tentpole hit since like the 1980s. Primarily Steven Spielberg, largely Steven Spielberg related films. She is now finally getting to be a household name because she was made president of Lucasfilm when the Disney buyover happened a couple of years ago. And obviously Star Wars, I personally feel is the better for it because if you look her up and you look into her back catalog of movies that she's produced, it is nonsensically just impressive.
Really
It's
impressive.
Stupid how impactful she's been in just like behind the curtain of everything. And today we want to talk about the fact that it's amazing that she is finally being given some recognition. She deserves all the recognition she gets. But it's also highlighting the fact that finally we have somebody who is known for being a producer and very little else.
Which is rare.
Because like in general, like the layman doesn't really know much about the role of a producer. Like when you see films, you care about obviously the actors.
Mm-hmm.
In the last couple of years, last decade or so, I think finally directors have been getting their share of the pie.
I mean, yeah. Especially in the sci-fi and nerd culture space, maybe over the past couple of decades. Well, I'll tell you when I feel like directors became like the forefront is around your Spielberg, Lucas, Coppola era. In Hollywood culture, at least.
I mean, if you're talking Spielberg, Coppola era, then that's just a handful, I think, that were really impactful. But I think finally now, I'll put it to you this way. I think now it's come to the point where during the Oscars presentations and during and most award ceremonies, the Best Director award is saved for the end, saved for somewhere in the end, because people understand the value of a director and what a director does to a decent enough extent that people give it the time of day.
Yeah.
Not the case with producers.
Yes.
Slowly but surely, people are starting to realize a bit of it. I think, again, using the MCU as an example, people are aware of Kevin Feige. They're aware of Jeff Loeb, if you look at the TV side of things. And Kathleen Kennedy. I'm naming all Disney stuff up, clearly, because that's everything.
Yeah, that's
but
most
regardless, it's just really cool that finally people are very slowly becoming aware of it. And I think, without question, she is one of the few... I really can't think of too many other people that are in the spotlight while only being a producer. Like, you can't... I don't really include your Spielbergs and Scorseses and people like that in
They're
that.
directors who produce.
Exactly. They're known for a lot of things. Producers are just one of them. Producing is just one of them. Abrams, same thing. Like, everybody that is a big name writer-director ends up producing something down the line, because that it's similar. It has a similar agenda, but it just, they do have different... muscles that need flexing.
I think, well, maybe you and I, just because we're a lot more involved with this stuff, we could even come up with a couple of people who are just producers. But I'll tell you one thing. She is the only lady producer I can think of at this stature. And she's at the forefront of it.
At this stature, definitely.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, I don't mean she's the only lady who produces stuff.
Right.
But in sense of producers who are household names and who are considered like creative forces and not just like...
But I mean, to that end, can you name another... a male counterpart who is so well recognized as solely a producer?
As much? Well, maybe Kevin Feige. Brian Grazer?
But he's a director as well.
No. Oh, is he?
Isn't he?
No, I thought... Well, Ron Howard directs everything.
Right.
And he produces everything.
I assumed that at some point he said...
he might have...
Sit this one out, Opie.
He might have done that.
I'll be surprised if he has.
He has the coolest hair. Have you ever seen his hair?
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's like he's constantly in shock.
He's cool.
But anyway.
Tell us, when did you first become aware of Kathleen Kennedy? Around the time of Force Awakens?
Same as everybody else, yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Around Force Awakens. The Disney merger happened, BioWare merger, whatever. That happened a couple of years prior. And all I remember sort of, taking away from that was that Lucas was stepping down and somebody else, what I assumed was a Disney suit, was taking over. I was like, well, yeah... somebody
Kathleen
fine.
Kennedy, she'll take charge of the next trilogy. And
I was
like,
all right,
cool, do what you want.
Whoever she is.
Yeah.
But so let me just give you a quick little history of where this woman came from. So she, after graduating from San Diego State University, she started working in a TV station.
Mm-hmm.
And so she started on the ground level, which is very showing of...
How many marks she got at San Diego?
I think 7.2.
Okay. What is that, first class pass?
B grade.
Oh.
Maybe
second class.
C grade plus visual.
Fine.
Adobe.
Carry on.
Adobe. So she started off in a TV studio as a camera operator and a video editor.
How much salary she got?
And a floor director. 10 Anna.
Okay.
And finally she went on to a news channel. Interesting enough, right?
Huh.
So she was there for a little bit, and then she started producing a talk show.
This was
what? This was all in LA.
Era would this be?
This
what
is
year?
In the 1970s she graduated. 71 she graduated.
It kind of makes sense for her to go into news channel. Actually, you will see that. Yeah, because a lot of people who came about in the 70s and 80s, news channel was just kind of starting to boom. That's when your whole, not really the 24-hour news cycle, but news channels became like a real thing.
Right, and like in that documentary Anchorman.
Yes, correct.
Right.
So, if you remember with that documentary Anchorman, it's a busy turnaround and like a mad schedule and stuff. So, a lot of the best equipment, the best people would go to news channels just because there was a lot of resources being poured into them.
Sure.
Yeah. So, like, Jon Stewart also, for example, is the first example I can think of. Started out at a news channel.
And then
Louis
ended up
C.K., famous masturbator.
started out in a news channel, Jon Stewart, and then ended up
Well,
at a
back to a news channel. I think.
Whoa, you went, wow, okay, yeah. Anyway, so basically after getting a start in news somehow, about 4 years
As a
later she
producer.
moved as a producer,
Right, yeah.
starting off as a producer in a news channel, a news station rather. She then moved to LA and then very quickly ended up working as a production assistant to John Milius, who at the time
Who is that?
was executive producer to Steven Spielberg's 1941.
Oh.
Right? So
And
that's where she got in.
1941 is pre-E.T.
It's a
Or
70
around E.T. time.
It's a 1979 film.
Oh, it's way pre-E.T. then. All right,
Yeah.
cool, carry on.
So that's where she got in with Spielberg, right? And in in vague order, I'm going to give you.
He kidnapped her, I believe, to be his assistant.
What?
She was John Milius' assistant.
Has this scandal broken recently?
Well, he didn't kidnap her. He poached her.
Okay.
He basically swung around his girl well, what you doing working for John Milius when you could be working for the Spiels?
So apparently, as a PA, she was his typist, as secretarial people would do. And apparently she was so bad that he was going to fire her. But then he was like, but you kind of have good ideas every now and again, so I guess I'll keep you around. So good thing she sucked at typing.
So, yeah, I suppose so.
We're all the better for it.
Do you think she got a break just because she was such a bad typist, where he was like, oh my god, your typing is so bad,
Please stop.
just give me an idea here.
Please stop.
Talk to me.
Just say things, you're better at that. So, I'm just going to get right into it.
Yeah.
Just so you know who we're dealing with, what her credentials are. I'm just going to read off a very, very, very small selection of the movies she's been involved with.
And I'm going to make crowd noises while you do so.
All of these are either associate to the director,
Okay.
whatever that means, which is not really a thing anymore.
Because
At least she's credited on IMDb as associate to Steven Spielberg as one credit. Another one is associate producer. Another one is producer.
Associate to the director is what is also called a director's assistant, especially here. Usually, it's someone who is around the director and helping them out all the time, but they're not an assistant director who also assists a lot with the logistics and production on set.
Okay, so somebody who can't type but has good ideas. So
If I went to film school with Kathleen Kennedy, I might get first class and beat her because I know things. Anyway, read out this list and I will make crowd noises.
Raiders of the Lost Ark, Poltergeist, E.T., Twilight Zone, Gremlins, Temple of Doom, Color Purple, Young Sherlock Holmes, Back to the Future, Goonies, Fandango. This is in order. I haven't skipped a single movie yet, by the way. This is literally the release order of the films she's been involved with. Fandango. All right, I'm going to skip ahead just a tiny little bit. Going to skip ahead by 2 years, right? We're in 1985. Skip ahead by 2 years. Empire of the Sun, Land Before Time, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Back to the Future 2, what else we got? Last Crusade, Indiana Jones' Last Crusade, Arachnophobia, Gremlins 2, Back to the Future 3, Hook, Cape Fear, A Brief History of Time,
How far up
Schindler's
are you
List.
here?
I'm still in 1990.
Holy crap.
I have 20 years to go still with this lady. Jurassic Park, The Flintstones.
Jurassic Park, you say?
It's a movie about...
That's the one with the Godzillas,
No. It's the one about this guy who was trying to sell shaving cream.
right?
But he goes through airport security and turns out that there are some eggs that got laid in them. I think there was a moth.
Oh,
or
yeah. I
a
remember the guy trying to sell
scorpion,
the shaving cream.
right.
He's Jerry Seinfeld's neighbor.
Yeah. It
Yeah,
was a
that dude.
big
Newman.
ploy. Newman. It was a big elaborate scheme.
It was, I'll tell you a little known fact about Jurassic Park. It was actually supposed to be the pilot for a Seinfeld spin-off. But it didn't do too well at the box office.
I think
So they shelved those plans.
I think when they showed it, when they test screened it, they were not really in favor of the giant poop.
Ah, yes.
It was a little too graphic for the time. It was a little avant-garde, little ahead of its time. I think they just weren't okay with that.
So, okay. Jurassic
it
Park.
didn't land.
Perhaps Kathleen Kennedy's biggest failure.
1994 is the Flintstones. 1995 is the Indian in the Cupboard. Do
Is
you
this
remember
the
that
Flintstones
movie?
with John Goodman?
Of course it is.
Ah, yeah, that
the
one.
superior Flintstones.
Yeah.
Do you remember Indian in the Cupboard? Do you remember that movie?
No, what is that?
It's like this B movie that I remember from when I would watch it on Star Movies around 1995 probably, and it's about this kid who buys a toy cupboard, or he inherits this little tiny cupboard that's like maybe like a foot tall, and it's in his bedroom. Somehow or the other, he decides to put his toys, which are like those army men figure type of toys.
G.I. Joes.
No, not G.I. Joes. Like
But
those
like
green,
G.I. Joes.
those tiny green
Oh,
guys.
yeah.
Right, like from Toy Story.
Yes.
The army men, right? Takes a bunch of those sized dolls, and one of them is a Native American.
Uh-huh.
And
Well, the movie's called Indian in the
Native
Cupboard.
American in the closet, in the
Yes.
armoire.
Yeah.
So he puts one of those guys into this cupboard and then closes the cupboard, opens the cupboard. The dude is alive.
The Native American.
Yes.
Okay.
He is now native.
And he's still
In
he's still
existence.
like 6 inches tall.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was basically Toy Story, but not toys anymore.
Racist.
Yeah, and a little bit racist.
Huh. I had no idea
Anywho.
this thing existed.
Yeah. Maybe she should have typed up a memo about that before they went out. Anyway. Yeah. So to continue, because we can,
Continue.
Twister.
I'll add my crowd noise.
The
back
Lost
in.
World, Sixth Sense, Jurassic Park 3, Artificial Intelligence, Seabiscuit, which we can forget about, War of the Worlds, Munich, Persepolis,
Oh, I like that one. Oh,
Benjamin
my
Button,
God. Wait, is that the one where it was...
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull,
Oh, shit, that movie
Last
sucked.
Airbender,
Oh, I like
Adventures of
that one. Oh, my
Tintin,
God.
Warhorse, Lincoln, Force Awakens, BFG, Girl on the Train, Rogue One, Last Jedi, Solo, and
I think I'm dying.
To Be
Oh, my
Continued.
God. Okay, cool.
That's not all of them. And
yeah,
that
no.
took way too long.
I feel like you paused, like early 2000s?
A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, no.
So-
Last Airbender you got up to. What is the last one that wasn't a Star Wars?
You weren't listening?
No, I was in the crowd. Did you not? Weren't you listening to my crowd sound effects? There was an entire storyline that played out there in the background, Jishnu.
Lincoln.
That's the movie about George Washington.
It won an Oscar.
Yeah.
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 And
For
Best
Steven
musical.
Spielberg. Yeah. Cool. So that is Kathleen Kennedy's history. We're going to get into how she got into this entire business and the company she co-founded with Spielberg and her hubs. So we're going to take a break and come back and discuss more Kathleen Kennedy.
Hi, I'm Ambika.
I'm Hoshna. Over the last couple of years during our travels across India, we've had the privilege to meet and interact with a number of passionate people who are involved in preservation or conservation of a local heritage, art form or culture, or even environment and wildlife.
So in this season, we shine a light on some of these individuals and organizations and the work they are doing, many of whom are using travel as a means to give back to their communities.
By showcasing these wonderful people and bringing their work to a larger audience, it's our small way of aiding their effort and giving you an opportunity to be part of a unique travel experience. New episodes of the Rediscovery Podcast out every Monday on IVM Podcasts.
Hey, Jishnu, do you like eating chips?
Always.
Well, do you sometimes find yourselves confused about whether a chip is good or a chip is bad? Is
No.
it good chips? Do you find yourself asking this?
No.
No?
No.
You don't require reviews of chips?
Nah.
Well, in case you have a friend who might need to know whether a certain chips is good or if a certain sodas is good, tell them to follow @thechipreview on Instagram.
Okay.
Cool.
Hey, we're back. So, Kathleen Kennedy is a person
Yes.
who should be noted.
She is very noted. She's getting more and more noted, in fact. I heard there's a Geek Food episode about her.
This is great news.
It's amazing.
I should listen to that.
So she began, as we said, as a production assistant. As a personal assistant to Steven Spielberg. Bumped up to essentially being a production assistant and associate to the director and so on. Here's the story of how she became a producer. She was working with Spielberg on Raiders. And helping out with a bunch of stuff. She started dating Frank Marshall.
That's very specific.
Where
was the date?
I'll tell you why, because it's this whole story about she started dating Frank Marshall, but they kept their relationship secret because both of them were working with Steven Spielberg. She was a lowly production assistant and he was a producer working along with Spielberg. So he said, don't tell anyone we're dating because they'll think that whatever success you have is because of me.
This sounds like an episode of Mad Men.
It sounds like or a pretty bad sitcom. Or a Mad Men episode. It could be a Mad Men episode. Except the successful woman comes in right at the start. So Spielberg then spots them out having dinner and he told everyone. Now it's a John
What?
Hughes movie.
Oh, damn.
It's like, hey, did you hear Frank and Kathleen dated?
Oh my God, Becky.
Yeah. My name is Steven. I don't know how you forgot that.
Stop trying to make Steven happen, Becky.
Yeah, okay. Cool. So here's how she started producing. Spielberg basically just went to her and said, hey, I think you've got a handle on this. Why don't you produce E.T.? Then that's it.
Wow, if life was only that easy.
Yeah.
go on a
She
date.
was 29.
So she went on a date.
No,
She
the
was
date
hoping-
has nothing to do with it.
No. But wait, is it not the case where she was on a date? She was like, I hope this goes well. Her boss walks in. She goes, uh-oh, this could end poorly. But then boss says, you know what, actually, how about a huge promotion on like one of the most influential movies of all time?
I feel like you're connecting the two things. They're not connected.
But
It's more like
but
her
isn't this a
boss
better
says
story?
like, well, no, it's
this
a
is
worse story.
Look, if this John Hughes movie has to have any traction, you
Yeah.
need to have like, what's it? The meet cute, right? The meet cute moment is when she is at dinner. She's not enjoying herself because her husband is clearly, thinking about producing things.
Not a husband yet. Secret boyfriend.
Secret lover. Oh,
Yeah.
it's an affair.
Yes.
So
No.
it's more racy.
Well,
Is
sure.
this is like PG-13 or are we like...
I feel like I've lost track of where your story's going. Okay, decide what category of Mills and Boon novel it is. You know how there's Mills and Boon categories? So you have like the light ones, which have very little graphic stuff, and they're like teen romances and stuff. You have the medium ones, there are different colors. They're identified by different
Okay, look
sleeves.
at it this way. All of the movies that we read out, right, for the most part, even though some of them are technically like A-rated adult films, they're still all relatively clean. There's no like extremely graphic movie in there anywhere.
No.
Nothing with too much blood and gore.
I know,
or,
it
like,
was pretty graphic.
I mean, you did see like a poop alien.
Yeah.
But apart from the poop alien and the giant poop in Jurassic Park, the aforementioned Newman movie, I would like to believe that Kathleen Kennedy is just incredibly vulgar and just like doing all the cocaine
Yeah, probably.
and just BFFs with all the gangs. And
So-
that's where the money comes from. Like she had to have a start. Like somebody like Steven Spielberg, even when he was doing E.T., big as he was still just getting started. Like on Close Encounters especially.
Yeah.
He was just butting around with George Lucas. He was like, hey, I need some help. Let me call up my friend who's also like young budding filmmaker.
Right.
But where did the funding come from?
Where did it come from?
Right? It was from like Juarez, Mexico.
Yeah.
And there was clearly just some inordinate amount of drug
Yeah.
and alcohol abuse
Yeah.
all around.
So when you say the funding comes from there, are you alleging that they sold drugs or they did
No,
drugs?
That they just stole
They
drugs.
stole the drugs.
They stole the drugs.
Okay.
And then, when you're on the drugs, you can go to the bank and like ask for like money loans and whatnot, and people just see you mean business because your eyes just bloodshot, you're shaking all over, and she's just a very personable lady. Just imagine her on cocaine. How much more personable could
I
she
have
be?
to say, for legal reasons, that Jishnu Guha's views do not represent the views of the Geek Food Podcast. But I will tell you this, Jishnu, again, as an individual and not as the Geek Food Podcast.
Boomerang 2 is not that good. We've established.
By the
But-
way, best song, 217th best song is
Yeah.
Boomerang Part 1.
Really?
Yes.
Don't, you're shitting me.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Anyway, a movie idea like Gremlins can only come about on drugs, really.
Are you on drugs right now?
No, I'm not. I am mainlining some coffee, some black coffee. Anyway, so after E.T. was such a huge success and Kathleen Kennedy played a great role in it, Spielberg, once again, Kathleen Kennedy's champion, said, hey, why don't you, me and Frank start a movie company together? And they began Amblin Entertainment.
It's a weird name.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it's named for.
I have no idea.
I feel like there's a story there. There must be a reason.
Like every time I see that name or I say the word Amblin out loud, I feel like it's like rambling.
Maybe, no. Amblin, like ambling along, like walking aimlessly, I think.
Ambling is a thing, right?
Yeah, ambling is a thing. Ambling
Yeah.
is like walking carefree style. And I'm sure there's a reason it's called that. I feel like it's a reference to something. And of course, the logo is the E.T. moon scene.
Mm-hmm.
And you will remember that off of every movie that we just listed that Kathleen Kennedy's done.
Almost.
Almost. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Maybe not the Star Wars ones.
Maybe not.
All right. Tell us about Kathleen Kennedy's role in Star Wars, Jishnu.
So, there came a
The
time.
moment where you became a fan.
There came a time in the late, what do we call them? The 20 aughts.
Yeah.
Yeah. The aughts.
Supposedly.
Such a stupid, why would they? Somebody has to come with a better term.
They ought
But
to.
so sometime around then, basically, there was a lot of speculation and talk about the future of the franchise because the prequels happened the way they happened.
Then everyone gave up on Star Wars.
And people gave up on Star Wars for a while. And we've gone on record several
Understandably
times.
so, yeah.
We've gone on record several times. I think all three of us are fans of
the prequels? Yes.
They're perfectly fine.
Yeah.
They're
But
they're
I mean,
flawed, but sure.
Yes, exactly.
But that's the thing. They're fine. There's nothing tragic about it. They're just perfectly okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when they were considering what the future of Star Wars was going to be, and when the MCU started up and, Disney was like, hey, we're onto something. Franchises are the future for the next bajillion years.
So it seems.
We should just buy them all and make it happen because we have the money to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you knew who she was, it shouldn't be too surprising to know
that
to
she was
have
put in
heard
charge?
that she was put in charge.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Nobody had a clue. And so once she became the director, creative director, whatever she is, president of Lucasfilm.
I think her official title is president, but essentially she is, she's creative director.
Yeah. So, she has the power of the pen to do things like Nick's, what I can never remember.
Colin
their names.
Trevorrow.
No. Lord and Miller.
Lord and Miller.
They, she has the power of the pen to like Nick's directors and change things up and call old buddy Ron Howard. I mean, who can just do that? Like, when else has it happened that a director of that stature gets called in as a B director?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's very telling that Ron Howard says yes to something like that. Obviously, it's Star Wars. You'd be an idiot to turn up Star Wars. But also, it really shows the respect that he must have for her.
Kathleen Kennedy,
To be able to say, like, yeah, I'll fix your sinking ship.
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't involved at all in the,
in the conception
of it.
Yeah.
Like, it's your idea. I just have to execute it. I'm willing to do that. Like, how many other people would he be willing to do that for?
Yeah.
So that's really, really telling.
I think she does command a lot of respect probably because of the fact that she's been around and she's had a hand in so many great projects that everyone, so like Ron Howard was obviously a contemporary of hers. And, I'm sure he worked with her at some point because she's worked with like pretty much every director there is. Like your Scorsese's and whatnot. And that's also probably why, because of that respect she commands, her being installed as the president and creative overlord, you'd think like, well, they pushed J.J. Abrams because he was a known name.
Right.
So they put him in the forefront and went like, well, this is J.J.'s trilogy. But it's really Kathleen Kennedy's universe.
Well, wait, they didn't say it was J.J.'s trilogy.
Not really, but essentially like J.J. was kind of the face of it as a creative enterprise. And I think that was also Kathleen's doing because she's apparently not super... press friendly.
Really?
Well, she's nice with the press. She just doesn't like the attention.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah. She's a private person.
Which is, I think, great because whatever she's doing is working.
Yeah.
I have no problems with that. But to that end, when The Last Jedi came out, y'all might or may not have heard that there was a lot of backlash.
Yes.
For many reasons, but one of the biggest ones, I think one of the stupidest ones, was people getting butthurt about the fact that the gender roles had completely flipped in terms of who had the power and who was the damsel, or sort of like the blonde just running around looking, just like stumbling upon things. Basically, in this movie, Finn, very much so I thought, reminded me of like Harry Potter in the way things go down for him. Just dumb luck. Like he needs somebody else there to like make sure he's walking in the right direction.
He
and
needs
then
his
every time
Hermione who's Rose, kind of.
Pretty much. And then every time he stumbles upon a roadblock, just good timing, good luck, and a very smart
things
friend.
work out for him.
Things work out for him.
Yeah.
I love Finn. I thought he did a great job, but that's pretty much the way it played out. And Rey, for the most part in both movies, especially in this one, was the championing hero.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people were really upset that it's
that a lady's doing things
female friendly and
strong
characters.
It was
that's
worse this time. It was there was this backlash even when Force Awakens came out. They were like, who's this girl Rey and what's she doing in our Star Wars?
Right.
And well, Kathleen Kennedy obviously had a huge role in that. And in fact, if you think about it, what's it called? Rogue One also has
of course. Yeah. But so Force Awakens has our Yoda is now Maz. Right, so now the
again a lady,
the powerful,
a lady Yoda.
The what's the word? Friggin' Oracle.
Yes.
The Oracle is a old lady who's also friggin' badass because like she has a gun and takes down
and she kicks ass
mofos.
Yeah,
and she does it again in episode 8. And we have Holdo, who
again
does like the most badass move
character
in the history of the saga, I think.
Yeah,
and so. It's completely a female-dominated trilogy now,
which I think is great.
Which is great, and there are just some asshats out there that have an issue with that.
I don't get it. Isn't it?
I see no grounding for that.
I see two legitimate reactions to a female driven Star Wars. One would be, oh, okay, cool. I guess it doesn't make a difference whether it's a guy or a girl who's taking the lead. Or, like, I think it's amazing. I feel like you can only be neutral or positive. There's no reason to be negative about this at all.
Because the thing is,
why would it drive you
like
mad?
Gender is so minuscule, especially in a very Star Trek kind of way. Of like, there's so many species we're dealing with. You know, like there's a fish admiral on board the ship, right? And you have a problem with the fact.
What is Admiral Akbar?
I don't. Fish admiral.
He could be a hermaphrodite, genderless.
That's like a triple word score you just dropped.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that word in... Where have I last heard that?
Bio class.
No. Hermaphrodite. I've heard that in a movie.
What? What kind of movies are you watching?
No, there was like a movie in the 90s. Little Penis, Little Puss.
What are you talking about?
It's a line in the... Oh, this is going to bug me all day now.
All right. Well, think about
it. I really shouldn't Google it either.
Don't Google it.
That's not going to help.
No.
Damn it. You've derailed everything.
So
anyway, so there's a fishman on board the ship,
and
people have a problem with the fact that the strong protagonist character has boobs.
And how does it affect your story? If you replaced the fishman with, say, an octopus lady,
right?
Is that an issue? No, it's just a different thing, and it's great. One of the best scenes in The Last Jedi is the part where Holdo is choosing to stay back on the ship,
right?
And she bids Carrie Fisher goodbye, Princess Leia goodbye, and that's just such a great scene. It's just the two of them, two veterans, clearly like great warriors and leaders, saying, well, like, may the force be with you, may the force be with you, all right, I'll see you around. Just such a great scene.
And I love the fact that they both look at Poe as just like, yeah, we'll keep an eye on him. He's cute. In that, like, it's charming that he's trying so hard. Which is very much like the whole behind every man is a strong, confident woman, blah, blah, blah. And that's exactly how this trilogy is playing out, right? Like, Finn is the sort of slapsticky, super energized character that runs around, bumbling around, falling over things, tripping over stuff. Rey's the one that says, stop grabbing my hand. Why are you...
Yeah, why would you? Again,
why would you? Why do you feel the need to? Yeah. And it's simple and it's direct and to the point because in a universe where like there's no need for underwear, right? Because in space they don't have underwear,
right?
In Star Wars land, why would gender be an issue?
It really shouldn't be.
If there's no need to clothe yourself differently in your undergarments departments, why would it be a problem if you have a lightsaber?
Words of wisdom from Jishnu Guha. We're going to get more into Kathleen Kennedy and creative producer overlords in general on the other side of this break.
Long, long ago, not in Bethlehem, but in a place nearby, there was a wonderful birth of a huge show, which I like to call Cyrus Says, a show that encapsulates everything in human history, from the first Homo sapien to the last Homo sapien. Who's traversed the entire world and then come back to India. This is a show which tells you everything about everything. If you want to know, avoid Google, come to us. It's called Cyrus Says. Get new episodes every Monday on the IVM podcast app or wherever you get your podcasts on. You get one banana water free with every podcast. Right, I'll just check that.
Welcome back to the Geek Fruit Podcast. We are discussing Kathleen Kennedy and her role as a creative overlord of the Star Wars universe as of now. And apparently most of our lives, really. And we never knew. But to talk about her role specifically on the Star Wars front, she has a lot of power in this situation. She's essentially fired two directors, one duo of directors and a director. She fired Colin Trevorrow off of the last episode and she fired Lord Miller. And that means she is well, when she does it, people listen. They're like, all right, cool, we can't deal with you. And B, it means she has like a really, really specific, strong idea on where she wants the Star Wars universe to go.
Yeah. Which would make sense with the back catalog that she has.
Yeah.
She knows what she's doing. So if at this point she didn't have a clear idea, I'd be a little concerned. To that end, at the time of this recording, it was just announced that they're going to have 2 more trilogies between the trilogy that Rian Johnson has.
Yes,
and they just
and
announced
that
one
again is the Kathleen Kennedy move. She was really happy with Rian Johnson's vision for The Last Jedi, and she really liked how he kind of expanded the world and made it more open. So she said, hey, why don't you go and make like 3 completely
Power
different
to you.
movies. Yeah.
But then we also now just got word that Benioff and D.B. Weiss are going to be doing another trilogy.
Now that
I don't have a clue what that.
get.
I don't have a clue what that means.
Yeah, I can understand Ryan Johnson getting a trilogy of his own, but why are the GOT boys getting a trilogy?
I have a feeling we'll know a little bit more by the time this episode comes out in a few weeks from now. But at the moment, I will say my only apprehension is that as amazing as Game of Thrones is, it shows that they are very good at adapting a book and making it work really well, but the heavy lifting is already done in that the story is amazing.
The story already exists
in the book, and you just have to put those. It's not easy by any stretch, but you have to basically just take the book and put it on film. But this last season of Game of Thrones, I think we're both on the same page. We've had this conversation. Got significantly weaker the minute that they strayed from the book and went completely off the books and made up their own story, and it was just
a little all over the place.
Yeah, so I mean, this is similar yet different in a lot of ways to what they had to deal with when it came to Game of Thrones, in that they're working with established source material, but you know, there's a lot more freedom, I think, in doing a brand new Star Wars trilogy, because at this point we have no idea what it could be, what characters, what timeline.
I mean, maybe we're definitely jumping the gun.
Completely speculative.
But it just seems like an odd choice, right? Because they're not even the kind whose creative style you'd think would mesh that well with the Star Wars universe. Like, the Star Wars universe is big, it's dramatic, but it's also light and it's also fun. And the Game of Thrones fellows don't seem like the funnest bunch.
Unless it's a trilogy like one of the Star Wars stories, in that it's the grittier kind of thingy. Like, Rogue One wasn't all that light and fun. It had its moments. It was great in that, like, it did balance it well, but I wouldn't call it a light film. It's not. It's definitely. I don't see Rogue One in the same.
It got dark
genre.
At the end.
Yeah, exactly. I don't see it like in the same genre as the saga.
Yeah, it's not. It's a. Well, let's see how Solo works out.
Yeah, I think that'll be a very defining factor.
There's also a bunch of Star Wars TV shows being developed. Which, again,
do we know who's in charge of those?
I think they're still being put in place. So there might have been some announcements, but I haven't been keeping track.
No is the answer to the question.
Yes. Okay, it's a no.
You should have thought that through before you opened your mouth.
Well, my question to you is, do you feel confident with, so essentially 6 movies that we know nothing about, and a multitude of TV shows that we know nothing about?
Right.
Do you have confidence in our Lord and Protector Kathleen to pull this through?
Yes, I do, because I'm very happy with the 3 movies that have come out since Star Wars came back.
Yes.
On film. A track record speaks for itself. I think, as it should be, it will challenge the audience. I have a strong feeling that these 2 sagas, whatever they be, will be each very unique and separate from the original saga. Like their very own voices, for the most part.
That'd be interesting.
I think it's going to be much like, what Marvel's done with, like, the MCU versus the Netflix stuff versus their TV, network stuff. Each has a very distinct flow and a distinct voice, basically.
Yeah.
And that's very much Kevin Feige, Jeff Loeb marriage, and making sure that, like, everything is,
except in this case, it's all
whole but separate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think Kathleen Kennedy is very capable of doing that.
That would be great. I'll tell you when I kind of really came around on, well, not came around because I wasn't like anti her, but the point where I went like, well, Kathleen Kennedy can do anything and she has my vote, is around the time of Rogue One, and particularly The Last Jedi, because I felt like Force Awakens was great, of course, but it felt like a retread. And I was worried that what she would do, along with JJ, was essentially do a retread of the original trilogy with some tweaks. So, like, now it's Rey as opposed to Luke, but it's essentially the same trilogy. But the fact that she, A, has a strong mind of her own, and B, lets directors take it in a direction that they want to, is really cool. So, like, with Ryan Johnson, she pretty much let him have free reign.
Yeah.
So, I feel like she's not the person who goes in like, okay, this is what I want, this is the entire story, go shoot it. She's more the person who goes like, well, tell me what ideas you have. And she'll listen.
Yeah.
Except if she doesn't like them, she'll be like, nope, get out, Lord Miller.
So she's willing to share, but she has very strong opinions.
Yeah.
In that she's like, yeah, like you said, screw you, Lord Miller, because you're not playing according to the boundaries I've given you.
Yeah.
But to somebody like Rian Johnson, by all means, push the limits, and he did very much so. It's very different. A lot of people were butthurt about it. I particularly loved it. And that's great because it's smart. It's like it's challenging the audience in just the right ways. It's been friggin' 8 movies. We can't keep recycling the same thing again and again and again and again. Like, and it's straying the story a little bit away now for, I think, good reasons, away from the Skywalkers solely.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's about time. I think 8 movies is more than enough time to give the Skywalker family all the, bow that they've been given. So yeah, I'm very excited. I will say the only one thing...
They all did.
The only one thing that I am still holding out on hope for is that Dave Filoni gets his time. If you don't know who Dave Filoni is, he's part of the Story Group. And he is responsible for Star Wars Rebels, which we've talked about. Tejas and I have talked about it several times on the show. And I will always highly, highly recommend it to anybody and everybody. You are really missing out if you haven't gotten into it. It is very much a kid's show. It's a 20-minute Disney show. But, man, that guy just has it down. Like, I've said this, I think, on record, that The Apprentice has superseded The Master. Like, he's got the tone just right to pay homage to Lucas, but he's refined it. It's like if Lucas made Star Wars like an 18-year-old single malt, he's now perfected it to like the 21. It's the same thing in just the right ways and tweaked just enough that it's like you fixed some of the holes that we were willing to forgive because how good this whole thing is on the whole. But Star Wars is deeply flawed.
Right.
We all know. We can't deny that.
Yes.
But Filoni's version of Star Wars in Rebels
fixes those flaws?
It fixes a lot of flaws. He's given me closure for so many things I didn't realize I needed closure for because I was willingly... There's so many things in Star Wars that we're like willingly turning a blind eye to because we're like, yeah, okay, fine, it's a kid's thing. So there's going to be the cliched whatever or like, okay, we're not going to get that deep into those problems because that's a little too morbid for this world. And like we can forgive that because it's space, so whatever it is. He's tackled some things and just made it that much more whole. This man just needs something. And I'm really excited that Rebels is closing because he's going to now do something else. I think it's going to be animation.
Yeah. He is an animation guy, correct?
He's an animation guy, but he just needs a movie. He needs a saga of his own.
Let's give him a movie. Let's get in touch with Kathleen Kennedy and make this happen. This is the most ringing endorsement I've ever seen from you. Of anything ever.
Have you heard about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Oh, no.
It's a pretty good show.
So the mistake I made, dear listener, was to get Jishnu started on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
100 episodes in. That's no easy feat.
100 episodes that no one watched?
Joss Whedon got cancelled with Firefly in just like 16.
Yeah.
Jeff Loeb made it to 100.
Congratulations, Jeff Loeb.
I mean, but it's also Joss Whedon.
Well, that's it for this episode
family
of
thing.
the Geek Fruit
There's
Podcast.
Jed Whedon, there's Marissa Tencher, whose name I could just never pronounce.
If you have thoughts on Kathleen Kennedy,
it's great
or
because
any of these many creative producer overlords that we've discussed,
and
or
he's
if
one
you're
of few
interested
guys
in
hearing
our views
time.
on another person with
you
a great
thought you've seen the end of him,
and long history,
but he is so good. He has a
that
bionic
you'd like us to do a
arm.
feature on. We've done
like
episodes on people like John Williams, on Harrison Ford.
Like the Winter Soldier, because he has a metal arm.
Us to talk about someone like that,
robot arm.
Give us your suggestions, give us your thoughts on Kathleen Kennedy or the Star Wars universe in general. You can get in touch with us on Twitter at Jishnu Guha and at Dingsthings, or you can talk to Geek Fruit HQ on any social media. We are at Geek Fruit HQ. I think
he has a flying car. That's really cool.
Oh shit!
Who else has flying cars?
I thought you fell asleep because that's what happens to me when I watch an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode. So you can talk to us on at GeekFruitHQ on all social media. You can email us at contactgeekfruit@gmail.com.
That show's also very diverse.
And check out our website, geekfruit.in.
There's a Hispanic lady.
I'm slowly going to walk out of the studio now while Jishnu continues to talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Very strong female
Until
characters
next
when
week.
I think about it.
See ya,
it
you
is,
nerds.
It is like a Joss Whedon thing.
As you can see, we have a podcast listener in his natural habitat. Millions of years of evolution have led him to this point. He's on his way to work, and listening to podcasts makes his miserable day better. He will now head to work and use all his knowledge to communicate with other colleagues and possibly future mates. You can find more of his species on ivmpodcasts.com, your one-stop destination where you can check out all the coolest Indian podcasts. Happy listening.